Katie Shea. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Richard Simba, and today on the Levels of Value podcast, we're going to get straight into it. And we've got Katie Shea here, the woman with a blueprint to success. And the overarching theme is going to be leadership, but we're going to sprinkle in sales in a few areas, which I think she silver lines the clouds so beautiful. But unlike ice cream, you know, she doesn't take away life. She's going to extend your life and the value in that meantime. I want to start this interview right here because I think you're really good at, Katie. What I think you're really good at is like identifying what people are like. Like,
100.
does that make sense? Like, I think that's what's made you like very effective, like a sales, just performing, being a marketer. So the delineation I'm trying to draw, because I think it's really going to matter in people's life, is that what is there is and what could be. And I think even though I actually like don't believe in free will, like you have to act as if it's real, otherwise you slide into like denialism, and I don't think like that's an effective strategy. Like if I'm just pre-programmed to say that, hey, I'm just doing my job no matter what, you need to act as if you have free will. Like you need to look at different branches on the tree to see which ones hold fruit and how strong that branch is going to be. So being a sales coach and a leader, does this entail like a destroy and a rebuild process? So what's your perspective when reality is not really like yielding the results that we want?
Yeah, I love that question like so much. So one of the biggest things is that and this is a big thing that I teach, especially when it comes to sales and leadership, is you have two versions of yourself. You have the past version of yourself and you have the version of yourself that you are today. Because where the past version of ourselves is like that version that has like all of our beliefs, all of our habits, and all of the things that who we are today, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
version of yourself that you want to become, that's like, oh my gosh, I want to become a millionaire. I want to step into my purpose, like all those different things. But there's a gap between who you were and who you are today. And so when you say like free will, there's always that version of you that's trying to hold you back. Right.
Facts.
So you have to start acting and being of the version of you of who you want to become. And when you start acting that version of you, things just start flowing to you. Things start coming to you because you're being that best empowered version of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Like you've almost got to like to be that version. Is it like, do we like, what do you put in place? Is it a question of maybe like acquiring or capturing something, like just so you like navigate that transition well, like?
Yeah, so here's what I was actually just talking about this yesterday with somebody. I said, if you want a new outcome in your life, you got to
uh
be something different, right? You got to take new, bold, and scary actions. And so the version of you of who you are today, I want you to list out the 5 feelings of what that version of you today is feeling. So it could feel stressed out. It could feel not empowered. It could feel just like super, just like what the heck is going on in my life? Like all those like feelings, or you could feel grateful. Whatever those feelings are, write them down. On the other side of the paper, you write down what are the top 5 feelings of who you want to become, and what does that version of you feel every single day? And so now every single day, when you feel bad, you're looking at your other side of the paper and you're saying, well, my power, the version of myself that's empowered feels excited and feels grateful. So how can I find an area of my life right now where I can feel excited and feel grateful? That's where the transformation really starts happening.
Yeah, that is powerful. That is powerful. You might know it as Amazon, but this girl here is amazing. I thought you might like that because you love breaking down like operating systems. Hashtag rich ladies. If you don't know, you go check out a freaking Instagram highlights. Highlights. Um, okay, becoming unrecognizable. You arrived at these gates like a stallion at the Grand Nationals, and I ain't ever heard of growth mindset until I started like exploring entrepreneurship territories. For me, I guess it was like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and now see online assets and digital marketing and just like podcast. Have you ever heard of what's the name? Carol S. Dweck, The Psychology of Mindset, that book?
Oh yeah. I do know that book. Yep.
Okay, cool. So if your values are what you believe ought to be true, like of yourself in the world, and your beliefs are what you believe actually to be true about you and the world, so One of them is more of like a moral judgment, and the other is more of like recognition of fact. The problem is, I feel like we're terrible at recognizing facts. So we oftentimes, if we don't know ourselves well, we paint ourselves into a corner, and that keeps us smaller than we actually are. So, what did you recognize, Katie Shea, about having this growth mindset on what they told you what is versus what you thought ought to be?
Okay, so this is, I love this. Okay, so I grew up with a learning disability. Okay. And I always was told, Katie, you could only go so far because of your learning disability. Okay, which the fact is, yes, I learn slower. That's a fact. That is totally a fact. But where I challenged that was I had a teacher one time. She wrote the word because on the board. I was like 14 years old. She wrote the word because on the board. And I'm looking at this word as a 14-year-old kid, and I think I was like, I know how to spell that. I could go into the bigger classrooms. I don't need to be in these smaller classrooms. Like I could do that. So I walked up to her afterwards and I said, Mrs. Fox, I think that I could be in the bigger classrooms and I know how to spell that. So how do I get to the bigger classrooms where all the quote unquote normal kids are, the smarter
Quote
kids?
unquote. I love that.
So she goes, Katie, I love your ambition, but this is supposed to be. Now go sit back down.
Oh,
So
it's a
it was
lot.
like that moment where I challenged that quote unquote fact of a learning disability
Hmm.
that I was meant to place small in my life. And I said, hell no, that's not true. And I broke out of that. I actually brought other kids with me to the other classroom. And now I have my own business, my own coaching business. And if I would believe that, I would have stayed stuck.
Wow. If you didn't believe that, you'd have stayed stuck. Like, yeah, I can't believe that situation. Just to be that young and just to be like, hang on a minute, like to put the brakes like on the world and just to recognize that something's wrong and like act on it. Like, yeah, that's incredible at that age. Like, I'm thinking now because in my life, I'm so evenly divided by like set ideas and like after set ideas. Like, I know the path that I was like that we're supposed to be on, like, I mean, work, job, pay bills, die, like, and men are just driven by like three things, you feel me, like food, sex, maybe boredom. But I'm gonna add another one in this conversation, which is progressional pathways. So now you said you go into business, you're on progressional pathways. Where you at in this, like, when did you get into sales? What's this story looking like?
Ooh, okay. When I get in sales. So because of my learning disability, I always thought that I was going to be an elementary school teacher. That's what I wanted to do because I wanted to help kids just like me. And when I went to school for that, I actually
Wow.
failed out of it. So it didn't work, but I think it was the universe guiding me in a very good way. So it didn't work out, and I ended up in roofing sales for my dad's company. And I hated it because I knew nothing about sales. I knew nothing about roofing. And it was like the weirdest thing to me. So I failed for that for like 8 months. I got told no constantly. I got shut down constantly. And I decided to immerse myself in the world of sales. I like would listen to sales podcasts. I listened to sales books. I found Grant Cardone and I started like going to all of his events and I was just like immersing myself in sales. And so once I started doing that and decided that I was going to become really good at sales, I closed over $1 million that year for my dad's company in like a couple months.
Surely
So
jumping catfish, million with
yeah,
an M, huh?
yeah, 100%.
I congratulations, Katie Shea. That is incredible. Like the fact that you was willing to learn, and for a lot of us, this situation stops like after school. After we finish school or college, like that's it. People ain't picked up a book since, Katie Shea. You know what I mean? Let alone know about a podcast. I mean, like back then it would have been even weird to like talk about this stuff, but now it's like, hey, you know what I mean? There's a podcast, an event. Now it's like, hey, an event. I mean, let's go. Like before, it was like, what do you mean, coach? Okay, what do you mean? You're on the soccer team now, or do you know what I mean? The times have changed drastically because, I mean, to do what we want to do, is it Einstein who said if you try to do the same thing in the same way, and expecting a different result, it was the definition of insane or something like that. So yeah, the
100%.
fact that you like jumped out of that loop, and yeah, I think that's incredible. You can't change your life without changing your own in the process. So talk to me about embodied, man. Like we're all evolutionally wired like to stay safe, like play failures play into that, right? You've worked with hundreds of students, and I've I heard you talk about it one time. What is the most common limiting beliefs that you see pop up?
Hmm. People that they don't think that they're worth it. They're nervous about other people's judgment. They like this is people that want to build their own businesses, by the way, because that's who I coach. But this is kind of universal, right?
Fact.
They don't think that they're worth it. They feel like, oh my gosh, people are going to judge me if I put myself out there. And all of those beliefs are really stemming from childhood and like what they've learned and what they were given. So it's actually not true at all, but that's what people choose to believe. And it keeps them stuck for so long, especially the worthiness part. Like that really is a big one for a lot of people that I've worked with.
Wow, that's incredible. Like, I understand. Okay, obviously, I love basketball, Katie Shea. I'm a full track athlete, so at school, as a man, I mean, you can earn. Obviously, I've been to a lot of schools, and when you're like new in a lot of schools, it's a different sort of vibe. So, through sports, I guess, we earn some sort of respect. However, I understand I'm like 5'6", so it doesn't matter how much I practice my dunk in the court. I will never be able to do it like LeBron James. Like his transition is so smooth. Like I don't have that DNA genetics. However, 50% is not DNA genetics, and I think that excited me. You feel me? Like to see
Yeah.
what we can do with sunshine, to see what we can do with rain, to see what we can do with on this progressional pathways. Like 50%. I mean, if you flick a coin head or tails, if it lands on that side, yeah, it's life changing. So the power of environment. Speaking of progressional pathways, you've like been to different platforms. I've seen you speaking on stage. I've seen you immerse yourself in the Grant Cardone. I'm not sure what you're doing it right now. So when you're like experiencing this situations where okay, you say you got rejections from the doors, and now the rejections maybe are different. They're not maybe so like in person or on the door. Like how do you approach now if you're getting ghosted? Yeah, in online. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So do you like to be sold to?
Do I like to be sold to?
Yeah.
I don't
Honestly.
mind. I don't mind to be fair. If you got something and I need to, yeah, come and talk to me.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Most people hate to be sold to.
Oh,
Okay. So when we're talking about like getting ghosted online,
mm,
it comes really down to like treating people like they're people. And so if people are ghosting you online, a lot of people will think that that's a personal thing and they'll take it very personally and say, why is this person not answering me? Like I sent the messages and they're just not answering, like what's going on? And we'll take it personally. Now, if I could reframe that, it's really just because if you're getting ghosted online, it's probably not because of you, it's because of life experiences or something that's happening in their life and not you.
wow.
So that's a whole reframe that I teach a lot of people and something that I had to go through because every time I would get ghosted, I'm like, oh my gosh, people don't want to talk to me. But it's really probably because maybe they were dropping their kid off at school and forgot to respond back to me. And so following up with that person is the most service-based thing that you could do as a leader.
It's the
Because
most service-based thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta get yourself in front of them again if you could really serve them and you could really help them.
Yeah, I love the way you step into leadership. That's incredible. That's the most service-based thing you can do. Wow. Did okay, so now you're online a bit, you're operating through Instagram. I've seen you predominantly on like did Reels play a part in generating sales or what was your strategy with being on social media?
Yeah, so I built my whole coaching business off of social media.
For
Social
real?
Yeah. Yeah. Social media is a very big platform for me that I use. And like Reels, I would say when I first started selling on Instagram, I would directly reach out to my ideal client. And I still do that today. People call it cold messages. I call it connecting with the person that you could really serve and the person that you could really help. Right. Like that's what I call it. But Instagram Reels are a great lead generation tool that you could use because your messaging is how you attract people. And when you're talking the DMs, the direct messages, that's how you convert people into sales.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So you've taken social media like a lot of people didn't and still don't for whatever reason. Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Like, how do you feel? Obviously, you talk about not personal and you've built up some sort of like mental fortitude. Now when okay, now obviously we do reels, right? We've come through in that generation where we're playing with reels more than videos. And like, how do you feel when you've quote unquote failed at a reel? And yeah, how do you feel when quote unquote you've succeeded at a reel?
So this is so funny because my Instagram account in like 2022. Okay, that was like when Reels started like really popping off and like doing really well. And I was like, I'm leaning into this because if Reels is what Instagram is pushing right now, that means that my Instagram account is going to grow. And I started posting and I sucked at it. I sucked. It was awful. And I would post every single day. I had like this 30-day
Uh,
Reels challenge, posted every single day.
but
And
fail every single day.
every single day I failed at it
It's
and it
just
sucked. And then all of a sudden my Instagram account started growing and like things started happening and people started DMing me and like all these things just started flowing to me. I'm like, whoa, this stuff works. So it worked. And I grew like 20 something thousand followers in that time, which was amazing. But then this is where I'm circling back because I want people to know that business is always not great and that's okay. And you figure it out as you go.
wow.
I'm at a point right now where Instagram Reels, like I crushed it for a very long time, and then all of a sudden it started going down. And I'm like, my views started going down, everything just started going down. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And I'm in that phase right now where I'm restructuring and refiguring out the algorithm on Instagram because it's constantly changing. And so even if you figure
Facts.
it out one time, you probably are going to keep on figuring it out as you go, right?
No, you're so it's things are that's the only thing that's guaranteed in this, and it's like change. It's absolutely inevitable. And like you, when you said when you go through the moments, it's like I didn't want to do reels. I'll be honest with you, I really didn't. But like you, I saw the potential and being someone who wants to serve. And I mean, you got to go where the people are at, right? Build a house and then invite them in for tea. But then moments where it's sucking, I'm like, hit the ball and try, 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 Charlie, hit the ball and try. And then after a while, I'm thinking, I just want to use this bat and hit Charlie on the head. You know what I mean? They've changed it again. I mean, I've just managed to put this thing in a headlock. Oh man! But people, spend a lot of time on there, and also you talk a lot about being intentional and how we use it is very different to quote unquote, let me say, someone else. I was gonna say like no, normal or average, but yeah, someone else.
Yeah.
So go on.
No, go ahead. I was just agreeing with you. Intentionality is super important for sure.
So how do you transition from being like a non-math lover to like a successful sales professional? Like, oh,
It's so weird. So weird.
yeah, for real.
No, it's weird. Sales for me is, and this was a very big mindset shift that I had to make. It's sales is helping people make a very powerful decision in their life. So there you're going to be selling no matter if you don't think that you're a salesperson, every single person on this planet has some kind of sales that they have to do. If you're trying to convince your partner or your lover, whatever you want to call them, if you're trying to convince them to go see a movie, but they want to actually go see a different movie, it's like who's going to sell who on seeing which movie? You're selling every single day in your life. It's just reframing that to say, okay, I'm gonna take ownership of that and I'm gonna move forward. So in a business world, it's you're selling every day, but you're really just helping people make very powerful decisions if the product is a really good fit for them.
Again, you had to shift your perspective, and yeah, this just shows why you've been able to leapfrog in certain areas. Your ability to adapt, I think, is absolutely incredible. See, from them times there, obviously, when you talk about in that school, when the teacher's like boom, 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 and you're like, nah, Miss Fox, Miss Fox, will you stop right there? And I heard you one time say, she wanted to call back home. I mean, back in our town, see, I'm like 29. I think you're around this age. Like they used to call landlines, and for whatever reasons, I was in them situations as well. Sometimes when they want to call home, and we come from the generation, whoever watching this podcast, where if you make it home in time, maybe you can intercept the call. You know what I mean? And some stuff, you know what I mean? Let's just say, yeah, like, crazy times. These times now, okay, the generation growing up, I mean, they've got like bell rings with cameras on there. I don't even know how they have fun these days, Times have changed and quickly.
Oh yeah, they
Quickly.
really
We want to take the time to big up HelloFresh on the Levels of Value podcast. You wanted to eat, so don't complain when there's a lot on your plate. But I'm on your team. You got work, you got kids, you got projects, and only 24 hours in a day. Wouldn't it bug you? Wouldn't it bug you until you can figure out how everyone's getting by and getting it done? Well, here's where you can catch up and speed past without sacrificing quality. HelloFresh is bringing the recipe. HelloFresh is bringing the ingredients. You don't even need an apron. You can make some of this stuff in record time and in the comfort of a tracksuit or a onesie. I love the smell of fresh fruits and vegetables, and they're not stingy with the meat portions. I got a little fish curry joint, and yeah, when the tits are that big, everyone gets in line. But you're not even waiting in line. If you click that button, you can catch 16 free meals the hard way, delivered to your doorstep while you're still dancing in your sliders. For independent people, it's easy to find a meal that tickles your taste buds. I ain't had meatballs because I quit pork 5, 7 years ago, but HelloFresh, they had this option, this beef meatballs, and it tasted like Jesus washed my tongue with a toothbrush. And just before he finished, he rings you. Whoever's watching this video, he rings you and tells you that you're good enough. Check out that link. So, being sold on you, like, okay, let's talk about this. There's no such thing as failure. I'll kick the light if we don't stop, right? Like success is constant failure and improvements. This is what I'm getting through your stories and yeah, you on this progression of pathways. Do you acknowledge any significant moment where you felt short and it was like, whoa, like this is an L, like this is a serious L, like a wheel falling off a Formula One car. Like maybe your reality was threatened, maybe like relationships or I don't know. You feel me? Like life. Did you ever have any significant moment like that?
course, yeah. As you grow and as you progress to, I guess, like how we were talking about, like that past version of you and the version of you that you want to become, when you start stepping into that version of you that you want to become, new things happen in your life and you're almost separating from the old. So, probably about like a year, no, 2.5 years ago, me and my fiance Tony, we got hit with like massive debt. I had a coaching business, things were going, things were moving, things were just progressing. I quit my 9 to 5 job back then and we got hit with debt. And for me as a coach and as a sales coach, I stopped selling in my coaching business because I went through like the worthiness thing again. I went through like, how can this happen to us? And I just went into a really dark space where, me and my fiance's relationship almost ended. Like so many things happened where life just hit me hard. And I remember back then, like sitting in this office, it looks very different now because I changed the environment of my office.
Wow.
But I remember sitting in here being like, okay, I stopped selling my coaching business. I have no money, no more money coming in because I'm not doing it because I don't feel worthy enough. And like, I have massive debt now. Like, I feel like a complete failure. And I realized in that moment that I had to switch my relationship with money. And once I switched my relationship with money around and my relationship with myself more on a deeper level, I started attracting more clients, higher ticket coaching clients, by the way, like people that are paying me thousands of dollars. And I made like $87,000 that year in like 6 months. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? It was because I focused so internally on me and
Wow.
then relationship with money and then went back into sales.
Wow. I've heard of the quote sometimes it said like the enemy is my enemy and you really went to war with yourself and yeah, it sounds like you was able to snatch victory from them jaws of the defeat. I didn't want to take you to that dark place, but I thank you for sharing and being transparent because males and females, we all go through this stuff and like there's ups and there's downs, but what we don't do is take our seatbelt off in the middle of a roller coaster, guys, right? You don't want to do that. And in the end, like, you get it right once, you can rectify 100 failures. So yeah,
Yeah, of
brilliant. Thanks for sharing, Katie. Um,
course.
okay, having clarity on what matters. So what do you stop focusing on and what do you focus on when you see people are not selling, necessarily yourself now from the outside looking in? Because having clarity also gives you clarity on what not to focus on. So yeah, what do you focus on when you see people are not selling?
When people are not selling.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so do you mean
Create an
like
offer that sells, building a sales system that converts into leads and buyers.
Yeah, yeah. Do you mean like personally, like for me, like when I talk to salespeople, is that what you mean? Like when, or when I'm talking, when I'm teaching sales, or is it mostly like when I'm in the sales process for myself?
Let's go when you're in that process. I think it's going to be interesting for guys to see, and from second perspective.
Okay. So for me, like when people are just like, when things are just not happening the way I want it to happen, it's, I used to react a lot to that. And I used to go internally to say, and this is just in sales and just in life and in general. Okay. Because sales and like getting people into your program or selling somebody into your program,
Hmm.
I want to say guiding people into your program rather than selling people because there's two different things there. Um, but if people aren't buying from you, I look at like how I mean, it always goes back internal for me because I'm the creator of what comes next. And so if something is happening where it's not happening the way that I want it to happen, and I'm not making any sales, I look at how I'm thinking, feeling, and doing, and I switch that, and then I approach my next sale.
Jeez. Thinking, feeling, and doing. Yeah, that
Yeah.
reminds me of a business philosopher in your country one time. I heard a clip and he said, we got to change what we think, what we do, and what we feel when we wake up. His name was Nipsey Hussle. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but yeah, a very, very interesting mogul from your country. That makes sense to me a lot. That makes sense to me a lot. So internally, when it's yourself, you focus more internally, and then do you attack anything externally, like from obviously now from when you see other people not selling, or even when other people, do you still see it being more internally? Because even if you try to give them something externally, like it will not work. So you will
There's
focus internally.
There, that's a good question. So I used to teach a lot of people how to, and this is where I learned this, not just for myself, but for other people. I
Mm.
used to teach a lot of people sales, and I still do, right? But I didn't teach a lot of people the internal part before I taught them the sales. I would go in and say, here's how to handle objection. Here's how to close somebody in a sales call. Like, here's how you do all of the tactics and all of the strategies. But what people were doing was they weren't taking action. They knew all the stuff and they knew what to do, but they still weren't taking action. And so the internal piece is like if you build a house and the base of the house is very rocky, the house is going to fall over.
Oh, damn right.
So you got to build the foundation really strong. So once you do that, then we look at, okay, here's how to like learn the skill of sales because sales is a skill. So if you could learn that, you put repetitions in, you're going to get really, really good at that.
Wow, Katie. She said sales is a skill. And yeah, this is why I had to bring you on the podcast, man. Like, I'm all about, introducing people to ideas and people who I think, it's going to be transformative. And, the skill acquisition, I think, plays a big part in anything you're doing, rather hobbies or passion. And in this game, we're playing and bringing people, sharing our journeys and adventures. Like, yeah, the game's about skills, skill acquisition. Like, what skills have utility, and if you can gain them skills, like the skill which Katie has got, you can really change other people's lives and change your life in the freaking process. That's brilliant, Katie. So
Yeah.
no one starts great; they become great. Money's like the biggest like architecture. I mean, social media and posting, it gives you great width, right? But depth, like, can you give me give me five women that maybe let's put women on the map right now. Yeah, give me five women who maybe you've been inspired by, or they've given you like great game, or you acknowledge them and value them.
Okay. You know what's so funny is that all of my mentors were all men until recently. So that's so funny because women for me, I actually didn't have a lot of women that I I found I couldn't find a woman mentor. And I love like right now I have a coach that's a woman. I freaking love her so much. She is an Instagram coach. Her name is Julia, and she's making like 100 grand a month on Instagram. And she's coaching me right now. I love her. She's super inspiring to me. Another woman I would say is Marie Forleo. She's a really great just woman. Um,
Marie Forleo, am I saying that Forleo?
yeah. She has
Okay.
a book called Everything is Figure Outable. So it's a really good book to read because if you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could make that happen, her tagline is everything's figure outable, so figure it out.
Love that.
Okay.
Okay, we
I
got
love
two.
that. Um,
You've been inducted in the Hall of Fame. There's three spaces left right now, guys.
I know, I know.
Okay, let's go.
I'm thinking. Um, Mel Robbins is good.
I've heard of that. Seen
I,
some
I
of
really, I love her. She's really good. Catherine Zinkina, she's like a money manifestation coach.
that.
I
Okay.
really, I love her. I have one more.
Yeah, one
I
more.
could think of men mentors all day because that's who I've been trained by, but women, it's harder for me. Um, I don't have another one.
In
I
this
don't.
space, let's give it to the man who, for the
Okay.
last, we need five. He's getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, Katie.
And this has nothing against women. I just think that a lot of women haven't stepped into that role 100% yet. And it's been very like male dominated, which is not a bad thing. It's just, that's how it is. So I have a lot more men mentors. Grant Cardone was a huge mentor of mine. I worked with them pretty closely. Tony Robbins, I've also done things with them. So I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. Joe Dispenza.
Huge.
I love Joe Dispenza. I love
Yeah.
Alex Hormozy. I'm a big Alex Hormozy and Layla Hormozy. If we want to throw another woman in there, Hormozy is a huge freaking powerhouse woman. I love her. And then I have one more, right?
Oh, you've got, yeah, you've given me five now. She can go in the woman. You give me, we've gone through four men. Yeah, cool. Let's throw another male in there.
Okay, I got it.
Yes.
Russell Brunson. I like Russell Brunson.
Russell Brunson, yeah, he's brilliant. I love that guy. You've named some powerful people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This makes sense. You feel me? Like getting around these certain environments and changing what you download. Because like anything, we're a hardware operating system ourselves, and you got to be downloading information that can change your life, updating your system, and maybe getting rid of some viruses which are, causing you to not work as efficiently. So yeah, that's brilliant, Katie. And I hear what you're saying. There's nothing against women. I mean, in this world, predominantly, I believe, and again, I'm saying it in reverence because I agree with what you're saying and see where you're coming from. Like it was predominantly like made from male, like the roles which were given for men and women, like. It was never supposed to be women working like three jobs, but times have changed, and we're not all in. When there's not much farm jobs these days. Like back then, it was probably like maybe 87%, were farm jobs. Now times have changed. There's more thinking jobs. And yeah, we've lived in jungles, we've lived in forests, we've lived in freaking villages, cities, and now we live on the freaking internet. So I agree firmly with what you're saying and understand where you're coming from. You're saying it's nothing against women. It's just the way the world has, like,
Yeah. Can I say something to that? Let me just add something in there if that's okay.
hey, come on, Katie.
Okay, the women listening to this, and I want to put this in here because I used to be a very masculine energy kind of a woman where I was in roofing sales and I learned from all men. And for me, like I noticed that like I needed more of like a woman energy to really get massive results in my life. And so both of those energies are really, really good. And so I still love listening to a man, but that's why right now I have a woman coach because I needed both aspects to get really good results. So I needed the take action, take massive action, but then take a break when you need to, right? And
Yes.
having those two energies aligned has really been a huge, huge, huge thing for me.
I respect that and see the power of that as well. I love a lot of esoteric people, and when their perspective on it was like, when we're saying, Richard, you need to tap some more into or embrace some more feminine energy, and I'm looking at big man like, huh? And but he's there like, listen, you're not saying like it's not a girly thing, but it's a perfect balance of that yin and yang. You feel me? The best example, what the if you look at a monkey in a zoo, the one thing we can learn from that, it knows when to swing and when to let go. And when you balance your energies in that, now whatever situation, when you're going through these rhythms of life, you know how to maneuver and mark new terrain. So yeah, I love that you was open. I think that's why you've gone so you've gone so many places during the time which you've been like present, like online, whatever you're doing on stages. Like yeah, you've really embraced both energies and not looking at something like, hey, like that's a male thing and I'm a female. Like yeah, I'm gonna discard that. You embraced it with a growth mindset, and yeah, it's paid off in dividends. To be fair, looking at your growth. Because I've been for those who don't know, now you do know, as far as her Instagram journey, I've been following her from the beginning. I could show you stats, so I've saved a lot of her content in certain folders. I brought her on the podcast because you feel me? Like, I really love her work, like, really love her work. So let's talk about relationships with money. Like, okay, like, what was the language like before Grant Cardone? And I've heard you with Richard Nolan, before you had this sort of like relationship with not necessarily them but with money. What was the other relationship which you had costing you before you arrived at this level of business and just, yeah, operating online now?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It took me a while. I've been in like I've been with my business. I don't even want to say I've been with my business for 5 years because I've been learning how to do this for 5 years. Okay. Like that's really what it is.
Wow.
But like
Learning.
for me, like, my when it started clicking, it's probably the last like year and a half for me. Like just completely honest, completely transparent. Before that, it was just learning, growing, figuring it out, having clients, not really like charging what I was worth and all these different things, right? So for me, it was like if I could go back then of like my money mindset, my relationship to my money, I was charging like $200 a month for like coaching clients. And back then I was like, that's a lot of money, right? And I had a massive amount of clients and I was doing it, but my time and my bandwidth was like zero. And so I was like, okay, what is going on? Then I demolished that business because this is a learning process, right? I demolished that business. I'm like, let me try again.
Destroy and rebuild. Okay.
Yeah. Destroy, rebuild. Win again, tried again. And I was still partnered with Grant Cardone. I was still partnered with Richard Dolan, and I was still doing all this stuff. And I was like, okay, let me try like, I don't know, a membership and let me just charge $97 a month.
Okay.
So different, right? So I started doing $97 a month. Then I realized when like the financial thing happened with me and my fiance, everything crashed and burned. I would charge like maybe like, for one-on-one, I would charge like $3,000 here and there. Like I was like kind of all over the place. That when that happened, I was like, whoa, like it really tested my worth to money and my relationship to money because I was like, I'm doing so much work and I'm giving so much value and I'm charging $97 a month. Then I started charging high ticket. My clients started getting better results. I started feeling happier. My business started growing rapidly. And that's where everything turned, like took a turn. But it was really me saying, how do I feel about money? I was not looking at my bank account ever because I was terrified to see what the dollar signs were. It wasn't there. Okay. I was constantly saying bad things about we're broke, we don't have the money, we can't do that. And so I just reframed how I was doing things and
How?
said, I choose not to do that today. I'm not going to do that because I choose not to do it. And that just simple reframe and the way that you look at money and feed money is a whole different game. And that's when you start moving powerfully forward.
Yeah, you do so much work internally, like, and looking at just how you're able to come up again, because some people get hit like that and we've never seen them again. I'm sure when you were starting out, there's some people who was on the come up, like same time as you're doing your thing, and like, it's gonna hit from every single angle, and some these relationships we have with certain things that we're trying to engage with is critical. Thank you for sharing that. I remember I had to ask that because I remember I was in Mary Morrissey school. If you know Bob Proctor, she's like the mirror flip with her, and obviously going back to the energies and wanting to balance my energy. So I'm like, all right, cool, let me turn her up. Turning her up, and she's talking about this situation where it's on stage, and like she gets the dollar bill out or whatever, and starts kissing it, and you can imagine the whole room. They're looking at her like, what on earth have I just paid to be in this event? And going to what you're saying about perspective, she's like, you want to have a relationship with this, you want to produce more of this, but in a world where we're taught not to appreciate it, not to love it. And then she's saying, what about if it was a baby, a nephew, a niece, and I was on stage and I was there like, she's like, you lot wouldn't be giving me these faces, would you? And I was there like, raw. I hear that. That is powerful. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. In the beginning, cool, then we have to get our mindset right, and then you can help them get to like their personal finances, get the relationship right. And now we're like fully distortion like reality sort of like. So I want people to understand like this is a game of life, right? And it has rules, and if you can master them, like Katie Shea, you can now play to win. So okay, now what they don't understand, going back to okay, money, right? It's just like a great facilitator. So if you don't know what you want to do, you're going to implode. I shared a TikTok video one time. Is it TikTok or who cares? It's like for people to understand, and you might like this. So if you have an aeroplane, right, and if you try to drive an aeroplane at the speed of what is it, like 380, like on the ground, your plane is going to implode, right? So taking all of this knowledge, and I mean, it's good for you have to like listen, knowledge raises awareness, right? But eventually, you're gonna have to take lift. You're gonna have to because when you're on the ground, gravity is in control, and it's not your friend anymore. You have to take action that's gonna put you on that progressional pathway on a trajectory. Now, if you take flight, lift is in control, not gravity. You're playing with different rules and you're playing now to win. So the question is, how do we get people to understand that you've actually got to find like your real rabbit?
Yeah. So are you saying like your like purpose? Is that where we're going with it? Or
Your purpose, like using that information, yes, using that information to now attach to something that you can, yeah, get purpose, get some mission, and start
okay,
to elevate instead of implode with all that weight on you
I
and
got it.
information.
Yeah, I
Does that make
love that
sense?
analogy. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I really like that. So when I'll give you another story because I think stories are the best way to teach somebody. Okay. When I found out about my learning disability, I didn't think that it affected me, right? Because I was like, whatever, I have a learning disability, I'm just gonna go. And I didn't realize it until I started doing the inner work on myself. And so when I came into like really understanding and coaching people in sales and doing all the things, I thought my mission was sales, and it still is. I love sales. That's why I teach. But the deeper reason behind why I teach people sales is because I'm teaching people how to believe in themselves and take action from a place that I was before. That little girl with a learning disability, sales was the first thing that I did for myself that I proved that little girl wrong.
Wow.
And so, like, for me, it's like diving in to really understand, like, where that mission, the mission that you're on always comes from something super internal and something that truly matters to you because you've experienced it. So that was for me. It was a learning disability. And so I got into sales coaching because I crushed sales because I proved that little girl wrong. And I was like, whoa, like I want to help other people do this. And that was my attachment to sales.
The attachment, that was the a key word right there. I mean, you've got to attach it to something. You've probably read the book, but just in case you haven't, because assumptions are dangerous. Is it Simon Sinek, Start With Why?
Oh
Have you,
yeah, I love
yeah?
that.
So yeah, like having some sort of purpose. I recently read a book again called is it A Man Searches for Meaning? And the way Viktor Frankl was saying, you could tell who was already going to, sign out. I'm talking lights out at the party. You know what I mean? And it was the people at the concentration camps who didn't attach anything to anything. You're now in a vulnerable situation because most people give up in life not because of what they do, but because life made them forget why. I think it's what
Yeah.
Les Brown said. So yeah, I think that's so powerful. If the audience picks up what she's putting down. Because guys, you're never going to have the respect just from like likes and clicks, right? You might get it. I mean, you have a season where you're buzzing, but once you're around like a bunch of humans who are like, okay, he's a freelance digital marketer, okay, he's got interesting ideas, she's got interesting ideas, like hang on, that's not really what people that you respect are interested in. Like you're made in his image. Katie earlier talked about, creation and creativity. And by that, so I want to extend and bring that into play right here because, we're creators of value in this world. And most people don't know how to strive for what they think that we walk. Like people don't know how to strive for what they think they know versus what they think they need. So they might think like, oh, right, because they're doing that, whatever, we walk around comparing our bank accounts, right? Like it's not that. I have no idea what's in the bank. She has no idea what's in my bank. And even if I did know, if even we did know, like, what does that mean? Like, that's not about that. If, we was at an event together. I mean, her and Tony, and we're there. We're like, okay, let's get a table. Let's talk about ideas that's in our head, right? Things that we're building, things that are worthwhile, like for us to actually have a conversation that doesn't feel like we're in the shallow end. Like, so Katie, like, do you think success is? Do you think success is often tied to the level of like sacrifice you're willing to give?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to stepping into a new version of yourself, you got to make some sacrifices,
And you,
right? Yeah, you got to make some sacrifices. For me, like it was sacrificing like some relationships. And it wasn't getting, I actually just talked about this yesterday. I don't believe in getting rid of relationships because they don't align with you anymore. I believe
yeah,
in just choosing what you pour into that relationship and choosing your energy towards that relationship. And a lot of people will say, you got to get rid of friends that don't align with you, which I just don't agree with. Because then people had to go through this whole thing of like, oh my gosh, I have to get rid of my best friend for 20 years because they don't think that they can become a millionaire. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Just choose what you want to pour your energy into that person with, and then find people that can lift you up even more. So, I think that success, like, it means something different to everybody. And for me, success is it's spending time with the people that I love. It's not necessarily the dollars in my bank account. Money is just a tool to give you that freedom. It's having time to spend with my fiance, like being able to like do things because I want to do things and like creating a life of just surrounding myself with people that matter to me. That's success to me, right?
facts.
But yeah, success means something different to every single person.
No, you're so right. I see sense in that. Like everyone's unique, and that needs to be explored. But I just wanted to shed some light on that situation because some people think, oh, because they're on Instagram or because they're talking about like from point blank. Sometimes some people get this light of okay, they must be obnoxious or, but it's not in consideration of like, do you know how much time they've had to put like into like knowing themselves to be able to even come up on the screen and talk about themselves and now even like articulate it. Like obviously everyone's unique, everyone needs to be explored, and at the end of the day, like we're all humans, right? Like we all is, just because we're doing this and talking a certain type of way doesn't mean that we feel high of ourselves. Like, you know, it's there's a certain level of confidence, but that's come with great works, great trials and tribulations, taking extreme ownership, and like we just talked about there, like some sacrifices. But the way you've navigating through these sacrifices and just, I think that is like that is incredible. Like how you're like, okay, it's just now the amount of time spent and how much energy do I want to give out, how much energy do I want to take in from this particular settings, bro. I think yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So, okay, cool. We've got an obsession here. I think that needs to be talked about because anything that's worthwhile doing, you've got to have some sort of an obsession. Like, and would you say for obviously that success that you talked about and being able to have these situations where you got with your fiance or with your sister, like, do you see power in having like an obsession? Obviously, that word sounds a bit aggressive. Or what's your perspective on having yeah, an obsession?
Yeah, my obsession is making myself better every single day. That's my obsession. And when I feel myself off, like I feel myself down on that, right? But I give myself grace when I'm down. I'm like, am I coming from a place of fear? Am I coming from a place of just relaxation? And like that's a huge difference for me. But like an obsession to me is just I know that I am meant to help people become coaches and like tap into something that like truly resonates to their core that they've experienced in their life that they could go out there and help other people with. Like my brand is called the Impact Experience because I'm making an impact with them. They're going to make an impact with their clients and it's just like a funnel of impact, right? So, for me like
Love that.
I'm obsessed about that. Like I love that because I know it's creating a funnel of impact for people. But if I can't obsess about helping myself first, nobody's impacted, right? So there's both sides of that coin.
Not for real, and it's good to see it. Sometimes you think, hang on, like, also when you have some staff meetings with yourself, you probably know what I'm talking about. I'm thinking, hang on, is this? It's an obsession, but I mean, it's sort of healthy for what we have to do and the level of impact. Yeah, the mission, like it requires. Uh, I can't think of any other word but an obsession. But sometimes things are taken out of contrast, and yeah, I think it was great for you to share both sides of that coin. Like I love that. So and guys, we're exposed to a lot of information out there, and they talk about shiny object syndrome. Like it's easy to be obsessed, subconsciously or unsubconsciously about things which have no impact to your life. And I'm talking how you want to feel or in regards to like who you want to become, right? So, and this is the thing right now with how media has played a part in this evolution. If you give somebody like a catchy enough slogan to repeat, then, and obviously now with algorithms, they figure out which way people lean and you just feed them like more of that. So it was, for a lot of us, I think it was easier to be angry than upset a lot of times, right? And I've heard a quote, Katie, what said, outrage sells more than sex. So if you can get people outraged, you see what the media does sometimes, right? You've really got them in a loop. And my thing is going back to first principles, right? Like understanding how your mind works. And that's why I think it was brilliant for our winter season, because you've taken a lot of time in psychology and a lot of internal work, and the value that you place on this is mind-blowing. So hopefully now, at least as an individual and now a freaking business owner, you can avoid falling into the trap which the media has a lot of people, and finessing yourself out of meeting real people, real associates, and future opportunities for you to guys to make an impact. I'm not saying like you need to distrust your emotions, but I just don't think because you feel something you should like act upon it. I think people should have goals like we've been talking about and say, this is my goal, which I hope is honorable. But yeah, if you have an honorable goal, then it's like, okay, does this emotion now move me closer or further away from my goal? So yeah, for everybody out there who sometimes think, hey, we don't talk about this or we don't talk about that, it's not that. It's like we're responsible for a lot of people, and they come in our atmosphere to feel some type of way or to get some sort of experience, and whatever's going on in the world. Like I love what Dr. Norman Vincent Peale said. He said, I don't discard the hardships of the world, but neither do I allow them to dictate me, right? But obviously everybody thinks we're just putting it in a box, and it's not that. It's just we're thinking more critically about it, right? So yeah, guys, I want to encourage you to have conversations rather than dismissing it. If again this emotion is taking you closer to your goal, like you really have to map it out. Even if we're dealing with a lot of wolves in sheep clothing out there, we need to map it out to figure out exactly who you are. Like we're really blind to ourselves, and I think we've, as far as humanity at this stage, I feel like we're crawling. Technology is helping us boom to a stage, but I think we're still crawling as far as like understanding who we are, if that makes sense, Katie, right? And it's only through feedback, taking action, like Katie says, take intentional action, and only through that feedback can you now bridge the gap between A and C. So yeah, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Being good is forever. Remember that. Gaining skills like Katie has and what she exposes you to, like no one can take this away from you. Being good at something like is forever. You gotta go find your real rabbit. Katie, Shea, let us know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm a big Instagrammer, so you can find me at Katie underscore Shea, SHEA 13 at AOL or at AOL.com. Oh my gosh, I'm like going email here. Don't do AOL.com, just do Katie underscore Shea 13. You'll find me on Instagram.
Katie, Shea, it's been an honor having you. You are an incredible person, and yeah, the leadership in which you put one foot in front of the other, I think is second to none. Honestly, second to none. So yeah, is there anything you want to promote while you're here? You got anything coming, or talk your stuff?
Yeah, no, you know what? Like for me, like it's just that if you feel aligned to this message and you feel like you're called to be something more, especially like a coach, and you feel like you've gone through experiences in your life, like I got you. That's what I do. I help coaches sell their programs and high ticket programs on Instagram or online. So if that feels aligned to you, just reach out to me on Instagram and we'll see how we could go ahead and get you there. That's the only promotion that I got because I'm just really truly here just to serve you guys. And alignment's very, very important to that.
Yeah, I can respect it. Guys, you've heard it from her yourself. Go and find your rabbit, go check out our work, and in the meantime, let this be the year that we get it together and get it all.